For most of my life, I believed that my family loved me. Not because they always treated me perfectly, but because I thought family was supposed to stand beside you when everything else fell apart. I was the oldest of 3 children, and I had spent years helping my parents whenever they needed me. I paid bills when my father was struggling, helped my younger brother start his business, and even gave my sister money when she was going through a difficult divorce. I never kept track of what I gave them because I believed that one day, if I ever needed help, they would do the same for me. I was wrong. Very wrong. My name is Emily, and at 38 years old, I had built a successful career in real estate. I didn't grow up rich. My parents lived in a small house in Ohio, and money had always been tight when I was a child. My father worked as a mechanic, while my mother stayed home and took care of us. We didn't have expensive vacations or fancy cars, but my parents taught me one thing that I thought mattered more than money: family comes first. I believed those words for years. After college, I moved to Chicago and started working for a small real estate company. I worked long hours, saved every dollar, and slowly learned how the business worked. Within a few years, I started investing in properties myself. One investment became 2, then 5, then 10. By the time I was 35, I owned several rental properties and had built a company worth more money than I had ever imagined. But I never told my family how successful I had become. I told them I was doing well, but I never gave them exact numbers. I still drove an ordinary car. I wore simple clothes when visiting home. I never showed off expensive jewelry or designer bags. I wanted my family to see me as Emily, their daughter and sister, not as someone with money. At first, everything seemed normal. My parents were proud of me. My younger brother Jason always called me when he needed advice. My sister Megan often told me that I was the strongest person in the family. Whenever someone had a financial problem, I helped. When Jason wanted to open a small auto repair shop, I quietly gave him $25,000 to help with the equipment. He promised he would pay me back, but I told him not to worry about it. When Megan went through her divorce, she needed money for rent and legal fees. I paid almost $15,000 for her expenses. She hugged me and cried in my arms. "I don't know what I would do without you," she told me. Those words stayed with me. I thought I was loved. Then, one evening, something happened that changed the way I looked at my family forever. I was visiting my parents for dinner when my mother suddenly started talking about money. "Emily," she said, "you know your father and I are getting older." I smiled. "I know, Mom. We've been thinking about the future." My father looked uncomfortable. "Your mother thinks we should move into a smaller house." "That's probably a good idea," I said. "I can help you find one." My mother shook her head. "We don't want your help finding one. We need to know if you can help us financially." I stared at her. "Of course," I said. "How much do you need?" She looked at my father, then back at me. "We were hoping you could give us enough money to buy a new house." I was surprised by how casually she said it. "How much?" "About $200,000. I almost dropped my glass. $200,000? My mother nodded. "You're doing very well, Emily. You can afford it." I didn't answer immediately. That sentence bothered me. Not "we need help." Not "we're struggling." Just, "you can afford it." I asked my father what he thought. He looked down at his plate. "I don't want to pressure you," he said quietly. But I could tell he did. I agreed to think about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time, I started wondering whether my family loved me or simply loved what I could do for them. The next morning, I decided to perform an experiment. I was going to pretend that I had lost everything. I called my accountant and told him not to share any financial information with anyone. Then I temporarily stopped posting anything on social media. I changed my car for an old used sedan. I packed away my expensive clothes and jewelry. I even rented a tiny apartment in a neighborhood far from where I normally lived. Then I told my family that my business had collapsed. I called my mother first. Mom, I need to tell you something. What happened? My company lost a major investment. She became silent. How bad? I may have to sell everything. There was another long silence. Then she said something I will never forget. Everything? Almost. She sighed. What are you going to do? I don't know. Well, she said, you'll figure something out. I waited for her to offer help. She didn't. Instead, she changed the subject. Your father and I still need to talk about that house. My heart sank. I told her I couldn't help them anymore. Her voice immediately changed. Oh. Just one word. Oh. No concern. No question about how I was going to survive. No offer of a place to stay. Just disappointment. A few days later, I called Jason. I told him I had lost my business and was struggling financially. He laughed nervously. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I said. I might need some help for a few months. He became quiet. What kind of help? I need about $5,000 to cover rent and basic expenses. There was a long pause. Then he said, Emily, I can't do that. I reminded him of the $25,000 I had given him. That was different, he said. How? I needed that money for my business. And I needed to survive. He became irritated. Look, I have my own family now. I can't be responsible for you. I felt something break inside me. I didn't argue. I simply said, I understand. Then I called Megan. She was my last hope. I told her the same story. I had lost my business. I had almost no money. I needed help. She listened quietly. Then she said, Emily, I wish I could help, but I have bills. I reminded her that I had paid her legal fees. She responded immediately. And I appreciate that. But that was your choice. My hands began to shake. You're right, I said. She didn't ask where I was living. She didn't ask whether I had food. She didn't ask whether I was okay. She simply said, I hope things get better. After I hung up, I sat on the floor of my tiny apartment and cried. Not because I was broke. I wasn't. I cried because I finally understood the truth. My family didn't see me as a daughter or sister anymore. They saw me as a bank account. But I wasn't finished. The real test had only begun. 2 weeks later, my parents invited everyone to dinner. I knew exactly why. When I arrived, my parents, Jason, Megan, and their spouses were sitting around the table. My mother looked nervous. My father cleared his throat. We've been talking about the family situation, he said. I waited. Since Emily is having financial problems, we think it's important that everyone understands something. I looked around the table. What? My mother answered. We can't allow your situation to affect the rest of the family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jason nodded. Exactly. Megan added, everyone has responsibilities. I smiled. So you called me here to tell me that you're not going to help me? My father looked uncomfortable. We're not saying that. Then what are you saying? My mother leaned forward. We think you should sell some of your belongings and find a cheaper place. I almost laughed. My belongings? I had more money than all of them combined. But I kept pretending. I've already sold almost everything. Megan looked relieved. Then maybe you should move somewhere cheaper. Where? Maybe back home. I looked at my childhood home. The same home where I had grown up. The same home where I had spent years believing I belonged. And suddenly, I realized they didn't want me back. They wanted me back only if I could still contribute. Then my father said something that changed everything. We've decided to sell the family house. I knew exactly what he meant. Which buyer? The company that was supposed to buy our house. I pretended to sound surprised. That's terrible. We're trying to figure out what happened. I smiled. I hope you figure it out. That evening, my parents received a letter. The letter informed them that the property had been purchased by a new investment company. They had 30 days to vacate the house. My father called me immediately. Emily. We're in trouble. What happened? The house was sold. I remained silent. Do you know who bought it? No. We're trying to find out. I could hear panic in his voice. Then he said something unexpected. We may need your help. I almost laughed. Why? Because you're the only person we can trust. I closed my eyes. Those words would have meant everything to me a month earlier. Now they meant nothing. I thought you couldn't be responsible for me, I said. He became silent. What? I reminded him of our dinner. You told me everyone has responsibilities. Emily, that was different. How? He didn't answer. I told him I couldn't help. Then I hung up. The next day, my mother came to my apartment. She looked exhausted. She had never seen where I was living. She looked around at the tiny room. How are you managing? I'm managing. She sat down. Your father and I are desperate. I know. We need somewhere to live. I understand. Could we stay with you? I looked at her. Why? She seemed confused. Because you're our daughter. I smiled sadly. That's interesting. What do you mean? I was your daughter when you needed $200,000. She looked down. I was your daughter when you wanted to sell the family house to Jason. She remained silent. I was your daughter when I asked for $5,000 and you all refused. Her eyes filled with tears. Emily, we didn't know you were testing us. I wasn't testing you. She looked up. I was trying to understand you. She began crying. I'm sorry. For the first time, I saw regret in her eyes. But I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. That evening, I called everyone to the same house. My parents came. Jason came. Megan came. They all looked worried. I stood in front of them and placed a folder on the table. My father opened it. His face went pale. What is this? The property documents. Jason grabbed the papers. He stared at them. You're the buyer? I nodded. Yes. Megan looked shocked. You own this house? Yes. My mother covered her mouth. But how? I took a breath. I never lost my business. Silence filled the room. Jason stared at me. What? I never went broke. Megan whispered, you lied to us. I nodded. Yes. My father looked furious. Why would you do this? I looked directly at him. Because I needed to know whether you loved me or my money. Nobody spoke. I continued. I gave Jason $25,000 because he was my brother. I looked at Megan. I gave you $15,000 because you were my sister. Then I looked at my parents. I was willing to give you $200,000 because I thought you were my parents. My voice cracked. But when I pretended to lose everything, none of you offered me anything. Jason looked down. Megan started crying. My father tried to defend himself. We thought you could handle it. No, I said. You thought I had money. He became silent. I opened another folder. Inside were copies of every transfer I had ever made to them. Here is everything I gave this family. I placed the papers on the table. Over the years, I gave more than $300,000. Jason looked shocked. Megan stared at the documents. My mother began crying. I never knew it was that much. That's the problem, I said. You never knew because you never cared to know. Nobody said anything. Then Jason stood up. I'll pay you back. I looked at him. You don't have to. He looked confused. I'm not taking the money back. Then what do you want? I want you to understand that I'm done being the family's bank. Megan wiped her tears. Can you forgive us? I didn't answer immediately. Forgiveness is easy to talk about when someone hasn't broken your heart. But when the people who betrayed you are the people you trusted most, forgiveness takes time. I don't hate you, I finally said. My mother looked at me. Does that mean you forgive us? It means I don't want revenge. I looked around the room. But there will be consequences. I gave my parents two options. They could rent the house from me at a reasonable price, or they could move somewhere else. They chose to rent it. Jason had to find another place to live. Megan stopped asking me for money. For the first time in years, everyone had to manage their own finances. And I walked away. Months passed. Something strange happened. Without my money, my family slowly learned how to survive on their own. Jason's business became stronger because he finally learned to manage it without depending on me. Megan found a better job. My parents downsized their lifestyle. And I finally stopped feeling guilty for saying no. 1 year later, my mother invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. I almost refused. But something told me to go. When I arrived, the house felt different. There were no conversations about money. No requests. No guilt. No pressure. Just dinner. After we ate, my father stood up. I want to say something. Everyone became quiet. He looked at me. We failed you. I didn't say anything. You spent years taking care of us, and we convinced ourselves that it was normal. His eyes filled with tears. We confused your kindness with obligation. My mother reached for my hand. We're sorry. I looked at them. For the first time, their apology didn't sound like they wanted something. It sounded genuine. I squeezed my mother's hand. I forgive you. She started crying. But things have to be different, I added. My father nodded. They will be. And they were. I never became their bank again. But slowly, I became their daughter again. That experience taught me something I will never forget. Sometimes you don't discover who your family is when you are successful. You discover who they are when they think you have nothing. Money can make people treat you differently. Success can attract people who don't actually love you. And sometimes, the hardest truth is realizing that the people you would sacrifice everything for wouldn't sacrifice anything for you. But there is also a beautiful side to that truth. Once you know who truly values you, you stop chasing people who don't. You stop begging for love. You stop proving your worth. And you start choosing yourself. I didn't pretend to be poor because I wanted revenge. I did it because I needed the truth. And the truth hurt. But it also set me free. Today, I still have my business. I still own my properties. I still have money. But the biggest thing I gained wasn't financial success. It was peace. I finally understood that being generous doesn't mean allowing people to use you. Being family doesn't mean accepting betrayal. And forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone unlimited access to your life. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away, building a better life, and refusing to let their betrayal change the person you are. My family thought I had nothing. They were wrong. I had something much more valuable than money. I had the courage to discover the truth. And once I discovered it, I finally learned who deserved a place in my life.